Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the series. I'm your host, Sanchez, and we are joined again by author Paul Karasik, making our way through the book section by section, and coming to the end, or near the end at least, we are talking about the section called The Work today, which can be found on page 139. And as always, you can find a link below in the show notes to grab a book for yourself. Paul, welcome back, man. And as we near the end, we're zooming out and we're looking at the work as a whole. We've talked about many different facets of the work and gone in and out of it throughout the book. But now we're really looking at it and addressing it. When to do this work and what it means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this sums up everything we've talked about. The truth be there. And the work is about awareness. And that's what I'm referring to here. Staying vigilant to our patterns, staying vigilant to our triggers, quote unquote, making that inner awareness a priority and allowing for changes to happen because of that awareness. And changes will happen with that awareness. The thing is that, Rob, it's so easy to get lost in the story. It's so easy to get lost in what's happening externally that you forget about the work. Because when I just said that to you, it really made a lot of sense. But why aren't people doing the work? Why
if it can make so much sense or be said so easily, right?
Yeah, but
and
now doing
that
it is
realization that you actually have to do. You have to act on this knowledge still.
You have to act. You have to act on the knowledge, and we're never given signals to do the work. It's just the opposite.
That's important.
You have a problem,
no
go buy a new.
Tell you when.
Go buy a new shirt. You have a problem. Distract yourself with a sports event or go to a show, or the old saying, change is easy, you go first. Right. It's you got to want that. You got to want that. You got to be able to be willing to give up the status quo and give up a certain kind of, let's call it, identity.
Yeah, it's that internal change, right? It's the hard stuff.
there has to be real change, and that's the work. To be willing to say, I'm not going to address these same things in this same manner. I'm going to lead from a different place, a place from, and again, I'll use the word awareness, right? So that's the real work. It's not about writing the mission statement or the vision thing, or we talked about values. Those are all technical kind of things that come out of the work, but that's not the work. The work is a new level of awareness as a leader, where your consciousness is leading the way, and not fear, and not irrational thinking. Let's put it that way. irrational
Right.
thinking, even if it's not fear. But that's the way most people are being led in leadership positions today. Look at all the politics in corporations and in businesses. Having worked as a consultant for so many years for these big companies, I was always amazed about how in big companies it's a different world. People are relating in a different kind of way as opposed to in a small company. What I mean by that is, in a small company, you and I will say, like, how can we get our company more successful? And then you'd say, well, we can advertise on Instagram. We could, and we're working together. And in corporations and in a lot of other leadership type roles, that's not the governing compass. It's not the true north. It's, how will I look? How will this give me a promotion? Um, will I look bad if this happens? Like, people are afraid about how they look as opposed to the enterprise or the initiative or the things that we want to do. And I said,
And
God,
working on the ego
if these
instead of
if
the
these
work.
big companies could just rally around this idea of consciousness in leadership, they would soar, because you wouldn't make decisions based on what's in it for me. Will it further my career? How will I look? Will this get me a promotion? What will the boss say? And instead you would say, hey, let's make this a success. And if we try something and it fails, screw it. That's the way things go. Edison tried 9,000 things before he got the light bulb. I mean, it's just part of everything, instead of like making it. And we talked about this in one of the other sessions, if you remember, about inability to make decisions because they're afraid of how they'll look. Well, if you're a leader and you're afraid to make decisions, what's left? I mean, what else
That
is there?
decisiveness is key. Yeah, that's
What else are
what
you
it
there
boils down
for?
to.
That's your main role, right? I mean, think
I
about
think it's
it.
important to remember you've got to fail forward in those situations, right? Not get kind of stuck in that failure, or because you failed, it's not like, oh, you should never have tried. Now it's time to be discouraged. It's
Exactly.
get some wisdom from that failure, see what you can learn, acknowledge the
Yeah.
weakness, close the gap, get up the next day,
Well,
right? Keep on working.
yeah. Well, that's what a competent, conscious leader, which is what you're saying, would say. Like, hey guys, we're gonna fail. Like, and no fault. I'll fail sometimes. You'll fail.
Right.
Let's innovate. Let's try some things. How do you lead people into a new future, into new change when you're scared to change and you're scared to develop? And you know, um, I'm working on it with a company right now, and I've picked up a lot of paychecks, Rob, for consulting and training and so on. But that doesn't mean that they're successful. That means I delivered it. And the difference of success and non-success is having support at the top level for the whole thing. And like I'm
Yeah, and
saying, I'm
having
doing
that
a
buy
program
off
right now, and
the
the
executive level.
leader, the CEO, is attending the 12 training sessions. He's there. I mean, I can call on him as
Right.
a participant.
That's what you want to see, that leadership buy-in,
That
right?
that's what you want to see, and he's really a great leader. I could probably name him on one hand, maybe two hands, people at that level in leadership position, because most leaders would say, oh, I don't want to look like I'm a novice in front of my team and like I'm in a sales and marketing training program with Paul Karasik. I'm above that. Like, instead of, now he's saying, no, I'm not only on above it, I'm learning stuff in this program that I can, that's valuable for me. So the work, just to put a bow on this, the work is awareness, consciousness. And I know, the other day I was driving to an event, to a meeting, and a car stopped in front of me, and my foot came off the brake, and I rolled into somebody, and it wasn't real fast at all. I mean, and I jumped out of the car, and I'm totally defensive, and this guy's saying, "Oh, I think you broke the back light in the back," and I'm like, "What do you mean by I didn't even hit him?" And I'm like going through a whole. I'm just triggered into a whole kind of. What are you talking about? And like I'm
Right.
saying these things and doing these things that and
How fast that work can disappear from your mind with
completely
different variables. It can just blow it away suddenly.
blown away. All my, I'm going to a thing and I'm aware and I'm in awareness, and then boom, I'm
Yes.
totally in the dark, and I'm not responding to the situation. I'm responding to oh, this is going to cost me $1,000 before I turn around. That's all I'm thinking about, and I don't have to give you my license. Like what happened to that awareness? What happened to that? Oh, I'm so conscious. But here's the thing, Rob. I was proud of myself because I saw the trigger, and I would have been in it, a couple of years ago. I would have been totally in it.
You saw the potholes. You were able to kind of start driving with some awareness.
I saw when you see it, it shifts it. That's what I'm saying. I didn't have to use self-control at all.
You think you've completed the work, or that you've been doing this work for so long, and you're feeling good, and then you get into those moments like that with the fender bender issue there, or bumper to bumper problems, and those problems rear their head, and you notice quickly there's more work to do, or maybe I wasn't as far down the line as I thought I was. And I think that's something you're pointing out really well here too, that this work is like ongoing. You learn how to do the work, you learn how to be aware of it, but you never quite finish it.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. The work is life itself. And a point we've made throughout the program that we don't need a technique. We don't need a yoga. We don't need a meditation technique. We certainly don't need a teacher. We just need to be aware. And as our awareness, if we do the work, as we're saying in this chapter, the change happens automatically. And those radical responses, those wired-in responses begin to diminish. And there's space. And I conclude this chapter with a suggestion. And we'll conclude this particular session here with that same idea, is spending time in silence, spending time with oneself, with our inner world, free from distractions, is a great practice to tune us up into that place where when we hit the car in front of us, that we have space there, that that's the work. Yeah, when I say space, that's what I mean, where you're not just responding to things. There's a relaxation element to it of observation. And I'm talking about pure observation, not thinking observation or judgment observation, but pure observation, right? Which is observing the observer who's observing, that level of awareness. Things change. So how do you, what's the practice to get better at it? It's to be in silence with one's own insides, and many people avoid this like the plague and will do anything. Lots of friends, lots of distractions.
Folks.
What? I'm sorry, Rob?
The folks that are always talking, they've got to be saying something.
They're always talking.
Uncomfortable.
All that stuff is distracting us away from, if there is any practice, and we haven't promoted any practice in this entire program, if there's anything that comes close, it would be to be able to watch as an observer and have awareness throughout the day, and not be in the actual judgment, fear zone, projection of the future, and to put it bluntly, Rob, our egos. And that's really what we're talking about now, to extract ourselves. That's what we're talking about, why so many big companies don't have great leadership, because they're not thinking about the company, they're thinking about themselves and how would it affect their political position, and that's how they're making decisions. And that's not for the you're not thinking about the enterprise, you're thinking about yourself. So ultimately the message of this chapter is to bring more unconditional love to the present moment. When I jumped out of the car, and it was a chauffeured type car, and I wasn't thinking, oh my God, he's me and I'm him. I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't thinking, oh, we're in this together.
Imagine if that's what was screaming in your head. We're all in this together. We're part of the same divine spark.
I could, yeah. Well, I wouldn't talk to him like he's something, from outer space and an other, as opposed to, no, he's me and a different version of me. But why should I be jumping up and down on this guy for saying, like, he's saying, hey, you hit my car, let's exchange insurance things, and I'm all upset. And it didn't warrant that. If I would have been, and I wasn't, I did have some awareness, so I didn't go through the whole tantrum thing of like, I didn't really hate your car, but that's encouraging and it's motivating. And I think if people who are watching the series begin to practice the work and then implement the work and bring awareness to everything that you're doing, every interaction, every response to good and bad, it's, both of them. I see people go up on, these big rockets of joy, and then they crash. And you need some dispassionate observation when it comes to good stuff too, right? Not just bad stuff, but good stuff too, of seeing it and maybe enjoying it, not taking away any of the enjoyment, but maybe not limiting it in some way, and just allowing for that pure experience of like, oh, this is great, as opposed to, oh, now I can do this, and now this will happen, and now, projecting, or, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to lose it, looking back into fear and that kind of thing. So we need awareness for everything, not, and I guess that's the core message here today.
Yes, and starting to build that space for yourself. I think it can be easier to find it again. The more time you spend in it. That's the whole point, right? Even though you may lose track of that space or the work in general, it can become a brighter North Star to just reattune yourself or realign yourself quickly. And I think just that's the real improvement that you can look for. And like, how fast was I able to get back on track?
Exactly.
Maybe you can't quite stop the trigger, right? You don't want to control that trigger.
No, that's an important point, and not to suppress it, not to run away from it. And that's in this chapter. We talk about that. It's so important, because when you're doing that, you're really part of that. You're not, if you're running away, then you have a relationship with it.
Yeah, now it's become this thing you're trying to control.
It's just a different version of being involved, but you're still connected to it. It's only through pure observation that you release. So if you suppress, it's just going to pop up somewhere else. And if you're going to run, you're going to get tired of running at some point, and it's going to catch you. So
you can only
great point. I think we did it.
Nice, Paul. Well, thank you. Well put here, and thank you all for watching. As always, you can start from the beginning of the series. You can pick and choose any titles that catch your interest, and you can find a link for the book down below in the show notes. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_the conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.